After falling by 13 points to the Sacramento Kings on Sunday, the San Antonio Spurs are facing their third five-game losing streak of the season. What's up, everyone? This is Paul Garcia, Project Spurs. Let's go ahead and jump into a quick recap of this Spurs versus Kings game on Sunday evening. So this game was pretty close for most of the first half. As you can see there, the Kings and Spurs kind of just kept swapping the lead. Then in the third quarter, the Kings get some comfortability. They start to increase their lead by double digits. They go up by as many as 14 points, and it looks like they're about to go on toward a blowout. But no, the Spurs actually fight back. They start making some threes in the fourth quarter. They get it down to 6 points midway through the fourth, and they actually get as close as 4 points to the Kings. But Sacramento finds the answer. San Antonio can't sustain that offense, and then also on defense, they just couldn't get any stops throughout the night. And so the Spurs end up dropping this game to Sacramento in San Antonio on Sunday evening. Let's go ahead and look at some analysis from this game. So for the Spurs, their top scorers, you had Jakob Poeltl. He ends up with 23 points on the night, 20 points in the paint. So the Kings had a very tough time stopping Poeltl and his ability to score inside. Josh Richardson had a great game for San Antonio off the bench. He ends up with 21 points on the night. He really helped the Spurs try to get close down to crunch time, but they couldn't quite get there with his three-point shooting, where he makes 12 points from the three-point line, or scores 12 points from the three-point line, should I say. Keldon Johnson ends up with 20 points, 12 points in the paint, but he really had a tough night shooting the ball. He actually put up more shots than he actually had points, and he put up like 25 shots, and even though he only ended up with 20 points. And then Tre Jones had a good game with 16 points, 12 points in the paint again. Also, like Jakob, he was able to penetrate and attack the Kings' interior defense. And then rookie Jeremy Sohan goes off for double digits with 15 points, 12 points inside the paint. He too was able to score inside the paint against Sacramento. So the paint, like I've mentioned that word a lot. That was an area of strength for San Antonio. They end up outscoring the Kings by 10 points there, 66-56. 60% of the Spurs' shots came from the paint. They made 59% of them, a good number. But it was more so the three-point shooting, which is where the Kings had the bigger edge. So we'll go into the Kings now. So for the Kings, Harrison Barnes starts at the 4. He ends up with 29 points on the night for Sacramento. He scores from everywhere, got to the free throw line. De'Aaron Fox was kind of quiet for most of the first half, and then in the second half, he really started to be more aggressive, attacking the Spurs' interior defense and also getting his jumpers going. So he ends up with 23 points in the night, 12 points in the paint. Davion Mitchell off the bench was big for Sacramento, especially his three-point shooting. He ends up with 12 points from the three-point line. Every time the Spurs had an answer, he continued to kind of just hit a three, and it would kind of keep that lead comfortable for Sacramento. Domantas Sabonis ends up with 18 points in the night, 12 points in the paint for Sacramento. They're starting at the 5. And then, of course, Trey Lyles, it seems like he always has good games against the Spurs. Former Spur ends up with 12 points against his old team. Keegan Murray, the rookie, this was the first time the Spurs saw him since he was out last time in the previous game against the Kings. He ends up with 9 points from the three-point line for Sacramento. And for the Kings, their big area where they had the edge against San Antonio was the three-point shooting. They won that battle 42-30. For most of the night, they were hovering about plus 21 from the three-point line, but it wasn't until the fourth quarter that the Spurs started to get closer there in that three-point battle. And then as far as the free throw line, they also had an edge there. The Kings by 7 points. They outscored the Spurs. They won the free throw line 20-13. When we look at just some of the shooting numbers here for the Kings, both teams pretty much had a good night on offense. Both of them shot over 50% from the floor. Both of them didn't play much defense. So for the Kings, they scored well in the paint. They didn't take that many shots there, but 61% is their accuracy in the paint. They shot very well from the three-point line, 47% accuracy as a team. That was a number 14 of 30 where I had to go back and look at it. Once I plugged it in, I was like, wait, is that right? And sure enough, it was. They also had a good night shooting from the free throw line, the Kings. They only missed 5 free throws. And then considering that both of these teams got up into the over 110 points each, Kings got up to 130. They didn't score that many points in the fast break. Just the Kings won that battle 14-12. So I was very surprised. And then both teams did a great job of holding onto the ball. They didn't really turn the ball over against each other. The Spurs tied their season low in turnovers with just 10, and then the Kings only ended up with 6 turnovers on the night. So again, there wasn't that many points off turnovers because neither team wanted to turn over the ball. All right, so now standout players for the Spurs. You had Jakob Poeltl, like I mentioned. He ends up with starting for 31 points. He ends up with 23 points on just 12 shot attempts. Like I said, he was just a force against the Kings on the interior in the paint. Also collects 7 rebounds. Jakob, 2 assists. He did have 5 fouls. It's probably one of the negatives on him for tonight. Also 1 turnover, but 2 of the team's 3 blocks. Tre Jones continues to do what he's been doing ever since Devin Vassell went out with that injury. He's just being, just being one of the top players for San Antonio night in and night out. 35 minutes he plays, 16 points on 13 shot attempts, so didn't quite get to that 20 that he's been averaging lately. 7 rebounds, 8 assists, 1 foul, and 1 turnover for Tre. So again, very strong game for him. And then Josh Richardson off the bench, like I said, 30 minutes, 21 points on 13 shots, 1 rebound, 4 assists, and then 1 steal and 1 personal foul. So for the Spurs, they're facing a 5-game losing streak this coming week. It does not get any easier. They're going to host the Brooklyn Nets on Tuesday in San Antonio, and then later on in the week, I think on Friday, they play the Los Angeles Clippers. So we'll see if they can end this 5-game losing streak in this coming week, or if it continues like how they had once faced an even longer losing streak at 11 games earlier this season. For Project Spurs, I am Paul Garcia. Have a great evening.